Hello, and welcome back to Fem Life. If you'd like to support me, please use my affiliate links mentioned below. Every purchase you make will bring me closer to my gender transition. During one of those intense work periods where I was logging 70 to 80 hours a week, I barely had time for anything other than the job. Thankfully, the rush had subsided, and it seemed like things were about to settle down. On Friday night, I was finally heading home at a reasonable hour, with the entire weekend off ahead. It felt like the perfect opportunity to unwind and relax rather than go out and party. I live alone in the city and was lucky to secure a 2-bedroom apartment in a rent-stabilized building a few years back. At 24 and single, having this much space felt like a luxury. The rooms might be small, but I have my own bedroom, while my sister uses the other. Although I said I live alone, I share everything with my sister, including the same body. To clarify, I often feel like I lead a split life. Most of the time, I'm Peter, working long hours, but when I need to relax, I become Megan, my sister. My bedroom is a bit shabby and dim, while Megan's room is bright and adorned with lace and pink. She loves floral patterns and stuffed animals. I've been a crossdresser for as long as I can remember. Since graduating college, I haven't bought much for myself, but Megan indulges frequently, mostly through catalogs and online shopping. It often feels like we're two different people living in the same apartment. With Megan having been quiet due to my workload, I decided she deserved the entire weekend to herself. After getting home, I ate some Chinese takeout and began my transformation. Normally, I'd just throw on a nightgown and read in bed, but this weekend, I wanted to go all out. I ran a warm bath, adding some fragrant bath oil, and settled into the old cast iron tub. I relaxed for a while before reaching for my Lady Remington razor to work on my legs. I used a wet/dry model with cream to soften the hairs and took my time, getting up to my inner thighs. Feeling relaxed, I decided to shave not only under my arms, but also the hair on my arms. Once that was done, it was easy to convince myself to shave my chest and stomach as well. Although I'd only done this once before and suffered from itching days later, tonight I didn't mind. After finishing the bath, I stood up, drained the water, and took a shower. I washed my hair with strawberry-scented shampoo and followed with conditioner. My dark brown hair, which had been growing out for a while, was about neck length, but not quite shoulder length yet. As I stepped out of the tub, I wrapped a towel around my waist and used another to cover my hair, balancing it on my head. I walked into Megan's bedroom and chose an ivory silk chemise with matching tap pants. I pulled out a beauty magazine I'd picked up weeks ago, which featured hairstyling tips for different women's cuts. I flipped to the page I'd marked earlier, showing a woman with large, flowing curls. Skipping the cutting instructions, I went straight to the curling method. Since my hair wasn't the same, I improvised, using the largest rollers I had to achieve a similar look. After several attempts, I was pleased with the results and applied setting lotion, nothing permanent, just enough to last the weekend. I used a pink hair cover that came with the rollers to keep everything in place. With my hair set, it was time to choose a nail color. After reviewing the dozen or so options, I carefully filed and shaped my nails. I decided to go all out and applied a base coat to my fingers before choosing a deep red shade. I wasn't sure where my transformation would take me, but I hoped to avoid looking too out of place. I applied 2 coats on my fingers and 1 on my toes, finishing with a glossy clear sealer. Although I knew the polish would come off by the end of the weekend, I didn't mind. I might even keep the color on my toes for the week. As it got late, I decided to call it a night. I made sure my nails were completely dry before climbing into bed with some of my favorite stuffed animals. I turned off the light and tried to fall asleep, but I had forgotten how uncomfortable it was to sleep with curlers in my hair. After some tossing and turning, I finally managed to get somewhat comfortable and slept intermittently through the night, waking up to the city noises 12 floors below. By mid-morning, I decided it was time to get up. Waking up as Megan is one of my favorite parts of my life. I look around and feel like I'm in a completely different world compared to my usual work routine or life as Peter. It's a peaceful and content feeling, though it's soon time to get out of bed. Glancing at the sewing machine in the corner, I decided to finish the A-line skirt I'd been working on. Today, I would be Susie the seamstress. Sewing isn't my strongest skill, but occasionally I get it right, and the clothes fit my unique shape, no hips or butt. I had a quick breakfast of yogurt and a banana, trying to keep my weight in check, but added a leftover fortune cookie for a treat. The fortune read that exciting changes were coming. Right, spending the day alone in my apartment sewing a skirt was as thrilling as it gets for me. As I finished eating, I noticed how dirty the apartment was. It's funny how Peter can easily overlook the mess, but as Megan, it bothered me. It seemed a change for the day was needed. I went into the bathroom and shaved my face twice until I was satisfied with the result. Then, I returned to the bedroom and sat in front of the vanity. I applied foundation and powder generously to conceal any traces of my beard and lines, being careful not to overdo it with my eyes. I often apply too much liner and mascara, resulting in very dark eyes, so I kept it subtle today. I used lighter shades for eyeshadow and shaped my brows with a more pronounced arch. My lips, which always take forever to perfect, were matched to the deep red of my nails. I needed them to be flawless before moving on, even though they often get wiped off and require frequent touch-ups. Once I was content with my makeup, I turned my attention to my hair. When I removed the rollers, I found the curls were tighter than I wanted, so it took a while to brush them out. After comparing my look to the magazine picture and making a few adjustments, I finished with a generous amount of hairspray. Checking the clock, I realized 2 hours had passed, and I was still not dressed. Megan the perfectionist was running late again. I went to the dresser and retrieved a new pair of black designer stockings with a small diamond pattern down the back. They felt incredibly smooth as I pulled them up my legs, and I was careful not to snag them. I attached them to my black lace garter belt and adjusted the seams gently. Instead of my usual corset, I chose a long line bra for comfort. I inserted my silicone forms, which gave me a 36C chest, and put on a silk camisole to smooth out the bra lines. Choosing the right panties from my drawer was challenging due to the numerous styles and colors. I settled on the frilliest pair I owned, white with ruffled lace edges, similar to petty pants, but shorter. They flared out more than anything else I had, making my skirt puffier. I reached into my closet and pulled out a sealed garment bag. Inside was a black silk French maid's dress with an attached white apron. Since I was going to spend the next few hours cleaning the apartment, I wanted to do it in style. The dress was quite short and required frequent adjustments to cover the tops of my stockings. Although it was a bit small when I bought it, I kept it anyway. I pinned the little white maid's cap into my hair. After putting the bag back in the closet, I opened the door to admire myself in the full-length mirror. I was pleased with the result from head to toe. I could have spent the afternoon primping, but practical Megan took over and grabbed a shoebox from the top shelf. I slipped on a pair of black leather pumps with a slim 3-inch heel. It took me a few minutes to get used to walking in them before I set out to clean. Monique the maid was ready for duty. With loud background music playing on my stereo, I tackled the cleaning, the kitchen, bathroom. I was bent over the coffee table with a feather duster when I heard a voice say, "Oh, excuse me," from behind me. Realizing someone was in my apartment and had a clear view of my stocking tops and panties under my short dress, I stood up quickly and turned around. I found myself face to face with Laura, my neighbor from across the hall. I momentarily wondered how she had gotten in before remembering that we had exchanged keys for emergencies. Laura took a moment to process what she was seeing. Her eyes widened as she looked from my pumps up to my hair and then back to my face. She was clearly startled and struggled to find the right words. As I searched for an explanation, countless excuses raced through my mind, but none felt genuine. Deciding to use humor as my defense, I turned slightly sideways and glanced at my outfit. "What's wrong? Are my seams not straight?" I asked Laura with a playful tone. A smile slowly spread across her face as she began to relax. She stepped back and then circled around me for a better view. "Peter, you look adorable," she finally managed to say. I delicately adjusted the hem of my dress on each side and, with one foot placed behind me, gave a quick curtsy. "Thank you, madam," I replied with my best exaggerated French accent. Laura erupted in laughter, and soon we were both in fits of giggles. Once we had calmed down, we needed tissues to dry our eyes, being careful not to smudge my makeup. Laura had a lot of questions, but took the situation remarkably well. She mentioned that she had changed her weekend plans and decided not to visit her parents. I had forgotten that she had asked me to keep an eye on her place and had planned to tell me she would be around. When she heard the music and didn't get a response, she used her key to enter. She apologized again for barging in, but I assured her it was no problem. I felt a sense of relief that she knew. Only a few online friends knew about my crossdressing, and I had never met them in person. Laura asked if I ever dressed up when going out, and I admitted that I hadn't left the house in this attire. She seemed surprised that she was the first to see me this way. She inquired about my name, and I explained that while I was dressed as Monique, I usually went by Megan. Laura mentioned she had seen packages in the lobby with that name and my apartment number and had been curious but hesitant to ask. Then came the more personal questions. "Peter, are you gay?" "No," I replied quickly. "He admires women and is straight." "And what about your sister here?" Laura asked, pointing to me. "Megan has never been with either a man or a woman, but she does prefer women, so I suppose that makes her a lesbian." From our previous conversations, I knew Laura was straight, and we had always maintained a platonic relationship. However, her gaze now seemed to give off mixed signals. She asked to see my room, so I led her to the space that no one else had seen. Although the room was clean, I felt a bit apprehensive. She looked around at the bed with its lacy sham, the vanity cluttered with more cosmetics than she owned, and the long wigs displayed on styrofoam heads in the corner. She remarked that it looked like the room of a teenage girl, and a young one at that. I admitted that I might have gone a bit overboard with the decor, but it's what I enjoy. Maybe in time, I'll mature a bit more. I sat on the bed, watching her explore the room with curiosity. I didn't realize that my dress had ridden up to my waist, exposing my frilly panties and the bulge straining against the fabric. "Oh my, I think we should do something. Would you like to change?" she asked, her gaze fixed on my inner thigh. Realizing what she was looking at, I stood up to adjust myself. Feeling that the moment was right, I excused myself to the bathroom to prepare. Although I hadn't considered being intimate with Laura before, I was seeking relief, and being with her seemed preferable to my usual solo efforts. In the bathroom, I removed my dress and cap, hanging them neatly over the curtain rod. I decided to leave on the remaining items and perform a striptease in front of her to remove the rest. I wasn't sure what she had in mind, but I imagined her waiting for me unclothed in my bed. I slowly re-entered the room and was surprised to find Laura, with her back to me, still dressed and rummaging through my closet. "I have a few nightgowns in the top left dresser drawer," I told her, assuming she was looking for those. She turned around and instructed me to close my eyes. This was getting intriguing. She told me to raise my arms, which I did immediately. I felt something soft flow down my arms and across my chest. She pulled my arms down and arranged something around my neck. I detected a hint of perfume and realized she had draped one of my cashmere sweaters over me. I tried to peek, but she insisted I keep my eyes shut. Next, I felt something cover my head and sides as she moved my hands aside. I heard a zipper go up behind me and a tight feeling around my waist. She was buttoning a skirt on me, and I was getting confused about why she was dressing me. Laura reached her hands under the skirt and up towards my member. I thought, finally, some real action. But her hands only continued up to smooth out the sweater, pulling it tight around me. I opened my eyes to see what she had dressed me in. I wore a red cowl-neck sweater and a black and red tartan skirt that fell about 4 inches above my knees. The sweater matched my nails and lips perfectly, and the black stockings and heels completed the look. Still puzzled about why I was dressed, I followed Laura as she left the room. I asked her where she was going. Come on, she said, opening the front door. I hesitated at the doorway. Laura, I told you I've never gone out dressed like this before, I protested. In one swift motion, Laura grabbed my arm and pulled me into the hall, slamming the door behind us. I stood frozen as she headed toward the elevator. Realizing I had no key, no ID, and nothing on me, I felt panic rising. I could try the building super, but he might not recognize me or, worse, throw me out. My only option was to chase after Laura. She had the key, and I needed it. Running in heels was no easy feat. I arrived at the elevator just as the doors were closing, with Laura heading down. I pressed the down button and waited for the doors to open again. It took all my effort to press the button for the lobby. I couldn't believe I was going out in public, possibly running into people I knew from the building. I tried to compose myself as best I could, straightening my appearance in the reflection of the shiny elevator door. When the doors finally opened, I encountered an older couple entering the building. The woman greeted me with a good afternoon, while the man gave me a lingering look and a smile. As they got in, I heard the woman reprimand her husband for staring too much. Once outside, I was greeted by the warm, sunny late autumn weather. I didn't need a coat, but I wished I had one to conceal my chest. The sweater was fine with a B-cup bra, but with the larger silicone forms, the fit was tight and not exactly flattering. I scanned the area for Laura, but didn't see her. What now? I thought. Hey, Megan. Over here. Laura called from the back of a cab at the corner taxi stand. I hurried over, and she scooted over to make room for me. I jumped in and closed the door as the driver started heading uptown. As I got into the cab, I realized I wasn't exactly graceful with my skirt, and I was sure someone caught a glimpse of my panties. This was a new experience for me, and Laura was giving me a crash course. What do you think you're doing? I demanded. Look at me, I can't be out like this. Give me my keys. Oh, come on. Where's your sense of adventure? Laura responded. It was then that I became aware of the driver's constant gaze in the rearview mirror, mostly focused on me. My deep voice had given me away, another first. I regretted not buying that video on how to sound more feminine. Who would have thought I'd need it? I kept quiet for the rest of the ride, though the damage was already done. The driver kept glancing at me and smiling, probably relishing the story he'd tell his friends later. Laura tried to lighten the mood, whispering that he was a cab driver and likely saw this kind of thing often. Maybe you wanted a little action, and we could get a free ride? Her comment made me chuckle, and I managed a small smile. The cab pulled over, and Laura paid the driver before stepping out. I carefully exited, placing both legs on the sidewalk and hurrying to catch up with her. I wasn't about to be left alone again. I grabbed her arm and followed her into a department store. What are we doing here? I asked softly. I need to find an outfit for my company Christmas party, and I don't like shopping alone. Come on, loosen up, it'll be fun, she replied. Fun, I thought sarcastically as we rode the escalator up together. I struggled to keep pace with her brisk stride, feeling like I was in a game of cat and mouse. In my heels, I did my best to stay close while trying to avoid drawing attention. I kept my head down, hoping to stay out of everyone's direct line of sight. Laura began sorting through the racks of clothes, with me closely trailing her. After a moment, she turned to me. Look, you have great taste in fashion. I've seen your closet, some of it is a bit odd, and some a little childish, but I'd really appreciate your help. Stop worrying about what everyone thinks, you'll do better that way. Reluctantly, I started browsing the clothes myself. I noticed we were in the plus-size section, which made sense given Laura's size. She was a bit taller and heavier than me, though my heels made me taller today. She mentioned she was a size 20W and wanted something festive for the party. I began to relax, moving between racks and pulling out skirts and blouses in various styles. While I knew what worked for my body, I wasn't sure about Laura's. With no mannequins in this department, I observed what other shoppers wore. Pants with loose tops seemed to be the trend. I focused on that style for Laura as I continued my search. Glancing across the aisle at the Mrs. department, something caught my eye. I picked up a dress from a nearby rack, held it up in front of a mirror, and examined it. It was calf-length, black from the bottom to just under the chest, with gray at the bust line and white from there up to the jewel neck. "You're really enjoying this, aren't you, Megan?" Laura said, startling me. "But remember, we're here for me." I blushed slightly, returned the dress to the rack, and went back to her side of the store. She had gathered a few items and headed towards the changing room. I hesitated at the entrance, unsure if she wanted me inside, but a quick tug on my arm indicated otherwise. Laura was unreserved about changing in front of me. She removed her sweatshirt, sat down to take off her sneakers, then stripped off her stirrup pants, tossing them on the bench. Her plain cotton underwear and white bra, which seemed to be a 40-60 or larger, were all she wore as she tried on various skirts and dresses, none of which suited her. She attempted a pair of black pants but was dissatisfied with the top she had. I told her to wait and quickly ran out to grab a top I'd seen earlier, a beaded red one in a heavy knit. I slipped it over her head and told her to wear it outside her pants. When she looked in the mirror, she liked what she saw. I thought we had found a winner when Laura started complaining about the tightness of the pants. I quickly dashed out and returned with a pair of black gabardine slacks, elastic waistband, double front pleats, and rear darts. They fit her much better, though they still didn't fall perfectly. I slipped out of my heels and tossed them to her. "Try these on," I said. "I think they'll help with the fit." "They're a bit tight," she replied as she stepped into them. "They're meant to be," I said. "It's part of the suffering we women endure." That comment earned a smile from her, and from the look in the mirror, she seemed pleased with the outfit. I complimented her appearance and showed her how to use barrettes and hairpins to complete the look. I even suggested she stop by my place before the party so I could help with her hair. "Will you do my nails too?" she asked with a hint of pleading. "Of course," I assured her. "I'll give you the full treatment." That included her makeup, so I recommended we head to the cosmetics section for a few essentials. Laura was thrilled. She paid for her new clothes and thanked me repeatedly. At the cosmetics counter, I suggested some products that would suit her skin type, and she asked the saleswoman for samples. The woman, noticing Laura's bare face, eagerly offered a makeover. When she glanced at me and offered to do my makeup, I declined, not wanting to reveal my beard. She gave me a curious look, but I just signaled Laura to hurry up. Laura had one last stop in mind. She browsed the accessories department and picked out a black leather handbag with a long shoulder strap and a gold clasp. I told her I liked it, hoping to speed up the process. It seemed quite similar to the one she already had, but I suppose a girl can never have too many purses. With her purchase complete, we were back on the street. Laura paused to take her new purse out of the shopping bag, removed the tags, and then pulled out my spare keys from her old bag. She dropped them into the new purse and handed it to me. "Here, Megan," she said. "I bought this for you. I didn't see one in your room, so I guess this is your first." I was genuinely surprised and tried to refuse, but she insisted. I put the bag over my shoulder, getting a feel for it as she adjusted the strap for me. She reminded me to keep it close in the city to avoid theft. Feeling a bit cheeky, I said, "If you're in the mood for buying things, how about that dress I liked upstairs?" "Yeah, right," she responded. "Did you see the price of those pants?" "I'm on a budget, and I'm not a fashionista like you." I chuckled as we strolled downtown, admiring the shop windows. It was getting dark, and my stomach rumbled, reminding me that I hadn't eaten much that day and was eager to head home. However, I had a key but no money for transportation. Laura pulled me into a restaurant we had passed. I offered to pay, but she understood my situation. As I sat at the table, I was unsure where to put my purse. She showed me how she places hers on the back of her chair, and I followed her lead. I asked her to order for me to avoid speaking to the waitress, but she refused. "If you want to eat, you'll have to order yourself," she said. "How will you manage on your own if you can't communicate?" She was right, it was my biggest challenge, and I was still avoiding it. I placed my order, but the falsetto voice I used seemed to make the waitress wary, and she gave me a curious look. I sat there, feeling disheartened, convinced I'd been spotted again. Laura reassured me that with practice, I'd be able to manage on my own. The idea both excited and frightened me. After dinner, Laura signaled for me to join her in the ladies' room. I was apprehensive, but needed to go as well. She asked where my purse was, and I had to dash back to my chair to retrieve it. The waitress, clearing the table, noticed and held up my bag, acknowledging its presence. I quickly said, "Thanks," and felt increasingly self-conscious. "That's all right, honey," the waitress said with a knowing smile. "You'll get used to holding on to it." Back in the bathroom, I entered a stall while Laura chatted from the next one. We continued talking until I heard the door open and the click of heels on the tile floor. I finished up and went to the sink beside Laura to wash my hands. As I looked in the mirror, I noticed my lipstick had nearly worn off, my hair was a mess, and my foundation was fading, revealing some of my beard. It must have been from touching my chin frequently. I showed Laura my face and said I needed to get home immediately. She agreed, but just as we were about to leave, I heard the toilet flush. An older woman emerged from the stall and began yelling at me, accusing me of pretending to be a woman to sneak peeks in the ladies' room. Apparently, she had overheard our conversation and was furious about me being in her space. Fortunately, Laura had already paid the bill, so we quickly escaped before the woman could alert the manager. In the taxi back downtown, Laura laughed off the incident, telling me to consider it just another first. I was still rattled, wondering how many more new experiences awaited me. Once back on our floor, I retrieved my keys from my purse and unlocked the door. I offered to get my wallet and reimburse Laura for dinner, but she insisted it was her treat. I asked if there was anything else I could do for her, but she said I had already done enough and thanked me again for my help with shopping. She reminded me about my offer to get her ready for the office party. As I was saying goodnight, Laura asked for one more favor. "You know, Megan, you don't need to repay me for dinner, but I could really use Monique's help tomorrow to clean my apartment." "Really?" I replied with a wide grin. "I'll have her there by noon." I tossed my spare keys back to her across the hall as I entered my apartment and closed the door.